Angry Robot presents this unabridged recording of The Cabinet by Eun-Soo Kim and translated by Sean Lynn Halbert. Read by Jun Hwang. Prologue. It is called Cabinet 13. There's no particular reason for the number 13. It only means it's the 13th cabinet from the left. This would probably be a better introduction if it had a fancier name. But then again, what would you expect from a cabinet? There is no need to imagine anything grand. If by some chance you intend on listening to this book to the end, it would be best if you rid yourself now of any fanciful or romantic expectations. Because if you have such expectations, you will only see that or less. No, this is an exceedingly ordinary cabinet. The kind that was in vogue in government office buildings during the 80s and 90s. It is an unsightly, dilapidated cabinet, mind you. The kind perfect for stashing away smelly gym clothes, lonely tennis shoes, deflated soccer balls, and expired documents. The sort of cabinet that requires no imagination to think of. Yes, that thing you just thought of now. Despite saying to yourself, no, you can't mean this. Yes, that. That is precisely the kind of cabinet we're talking about. Part 1. The Cabinet. Why, Cerberus? Why? May 8th, 1902, Martinique. It was here, on this island in the West Indies, that the most violent and powerful volcanic eruption of the last century occurred. When the eruption began, lava and fragments of volcanic rock were launched into the air at 200 kilometers per hour from the crater of Mount Pelée, which towered 1,463 meters above the sea. Shortly following the explosion, which resulted from the buildup of high-pressured volcanic gases inside the volcano, the earth and rock that had once constituted the ash-covered summit of Mount Pelée began to fall on the southwestern face of the mountain, enveloping the beautiful city of Saint-Pierre, which stood only 8 kilometers from the summit. For the people of Saint-Pierre, the whole event was over in a blink of an eye. They didn't even have the time to identify the source of the sound, nor did they have the time to say in warning, "Papa, this is not the time to be in the bathroom. Pelée just erupted." They didn't have the time to make tear-filled farewells such as the ones a grandma might say to her old and decrepit husband. I know we are to live together out of necessity in this world, but in the afterlife, let's go our separate ways. Nor did they have the time to gather their clothes hanging in the yard or jump out of the tub naked and throw on a robe before running for their lives. Sitting on the toilet or lying in the bathtub, unable to fulfill their promises, with perplexed eyes wide open. That's how the people of Saint-Pierre were buried alive. There had been several eruptions in the past, and there was always volcanic activity in the crater. But it never bothered the people of Saint-Pierre. In fact, because they held the absurd belief that the volcano was their protector, they looked at the smoke coming from the crater like a beautiful landscape painting. Every time a rumbling came from the faraway mountain, the grandmothers of Saint-Pierre would place their terrified granddaughters on their laps and rub them on the back, just as their grandmothers had done for them. My child, do not worry. The volcano will not harm us. In fact, it protects our town from the evil spirits. They say having a volcano next door is good fortune. But nothing fortunate came from the 1902 eruption of Mount Pelée. Nearly all of the town's 28,000 inhabitants died, including the tourists who had come from afar to see Martinique's beautiful crater lake. numerous flocks of sheep, and the dogs that chased those flocks of sheep, and lactating cows, and birds who couldn't fly away fast enough, and wagons carrying milk, and the fountain in the town square that gave free droplets of water, and streets paved with fine rocks, and the church tower that rang its beautiful bells every hour. All of these were buried in ash, desperately, hanging onto their last breath. The thick, heavy lava marched down the mountain, blanketing all of their possessions. And as it dried, it transformed all of the memories, jealousy, joy, anger, and passion of the people of Saint Pierre into a giant heap of stone. But amidst this pandemonium, there was one person who miraculously survived, the prisoner, Lodger Silberus. This sole survivor's good fortune was thanks to a curious prison located in the middle of Saint Pierre. Usually, prisons that house vile inmates are located on the outskirts of a city or in some dark and damp underground pit, but not in Saint Pierre. For some odd reason, they decided to erect a tower in the middle of the city, and at the very top of this tower, they put the most despicable prisoner in all of the town. Ironically, it seems that Lodger Silberus was saved by being a vile criminal. The prison tower of Saint Pierre was very tall. It soared 48 meters into the sky, and this dizzying height was enough that there was no need for iron bars on the prison windows, something all other prison windows needed. Indeed, for the last several hundred years, there wasn't a single prisoner who was able to escape from that tower, despite not having any bars. Of course, that's not to say there weren't escape attempts. In 1864, André Dropper, the sailor, who was as brave as he was stupid, attempted to escape the prison. Dropper used bed sheets, prison clothes, underwear, belts, socks, and several towels to fashion a rope long and sturdy enough, or so he thought, to reach all the way to the base of the tower. A rope, in other words, that was at least 48 meters in length. In order to get materials for his foolish plan, he tore up all of the fabric he could find in his cell. And because he had torn up everything that had even a bit of fabric on it, that is, his pants, drawers, prison clothes, bed sheets, and blankets, he was forced to sit naked on the cold stone floor as he wove the rope. At night, a chilling sea breeze blew through the tower. But naked, Dropper endured the cold sea breeze and lonely night, thinking of the rosy future in which he would be sitting next to a beautiful woman as he ate hot beef soup and drank rum. Finally, when not a single thread of cloth was left in the cell and the rope had been finished, Dropper was so excited he was moved to tears. It goes without saying that Dropper's rope did not reach the ground. But with no more fabric to increase the length of the rope, Dropper naively thought to himself, how short could it be? If I get to the end of the rope and I still haven't reached the ground, I will just jump the remaining height. And decided to go through with it anyway. Who knows? Such a plan might have even seemed feasible when he looked down from the top of the tower. But deciding to risk it all was the most foolish decision of many foolish decisions André Dropper had made throughout his life. Sure enough,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?